Welcome to another exciting episode of BalbuTech, the show dedicated to exploring the transformative power of technology throughout Namibia and the African continent. I am your host, Sibongile Tshabalala. And today we have an insightful guest who will discuss the role of technology in development, digital IDs, and their potential for economical inclusion. Please welcome Niel Swanepoel. Welcome to the show, Niel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Such a pleasure.
So let's get into it. Really, for you, what really inspired you to focus on, the intersection of technology and development, and what keeps you really passionate about this field?
Yeah, it's a weird journey. I haven't been nerdy about technology all my life. I didn't study computer science. I studied English and economics. So it was kind of a weird way that I got interested in this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And it kind of happened quite suddenly during COVID. I think when everything was shut down, I was at university doing some tutoring. And I think once everything was just completely virtual, it was amazing to kind of firsthand see the impact of the incredible sort of potential that technology can play for creating just inclusive ways of learning and living. But at the same time, it just showed me how vulnerable people were that didn't have that access and how left out they would be from this technological change. So I think that I really see technology more as a means to an end for social development rather than the tech itself that interests me. So really seeing how you can use the amazing potential of the technology is really just why I think it's such a fascinating topic. And there's so much amazing advancements and drama and intrigue in the tech space. So it's just very interesting.
And ever since then, Niel, you've really just, immersed yourself, in this field. And I know you've worked on so many things, but looking at specific sectors or even industries in Namibia, which would you say are really ripe for like digital transformation and could benefit really significantly to the tech adaptation?
I think I would say there's three that come to mind. The obvious one, and I think this is probably where the transformation has happened the most already, is probably in finance and insurance.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff is the more kind of, people are going to criticize me, but like the more boring back-end enterprise aspect of technology. Yeah. As more people are adopting cell phones, there's a lot more interest and demand for mobile services, especially in insurance and banking. But I think what's really interesting from an inclusion point of view is that because there's going to be so much more data available, because people are using tech more, that data will be able to be analyzed, and through sort of machine learning and data analytics, especially in something like insurance or loans, what that'll mean is there'll be new ways of assessing people's credit scores. Okay. And that might sound boring, but the reason that is interesting is now people that might have a very bad credit score because they have no history of loans or assets, there'll be more data to kind of evaluate them. And I think the potential that has is people that young people and people that don't have a strong credit history will now have new ways to actually apply for loans and insurance at a cheaper rate.
And you mentioned likely on the topic of even inclusion. So looking at the broader impact of tech and just digitalization, how can these advancements, how do they help create jobs and career opportunities for people in Namibia?
Yeah, tech is really going to change the labor landscape a lot. And if we look at just traditional, what our parents told us to be when we grow up, those traditional roles are quite upended now. And I think a lot of people are worried, about job losses, about what automation will mean for all of this. So I think there is a lot of uncertainty. But there's going to be a lot of new roles created as well, a lot of new demand for things. I think what we're seeing with artificial intelligence is, for the first time in a lot of sort of industrial revolution activity, this is actually going to help people on the lower education spectrum.
Really?
And the reason I say that is with tools like ChatGPT, you no longer need to be like the most impressive sounding English major to actually get work done and write compelling copy and emails. And I think that really brings people more to the table that didn't have the opportunities to maybe refine those skills.
And let's touch deeper into the implementation of technology for development, because we know that it comes with its own challenges. There are opportunities, but there are also challenges. And I'm sure looking at, again, the landscape of not just Namibia, but Africa as a whole, that we have so many obstacles. So what are some of those that you've encountered in this field, and some of the solutions that have been proven to be effective?
Right, yeah. One of the great and probably the most meaningful professional activity I've been involved with here at Impact Tank is drafting the national digital strategy.
Of course.
So Impact Tank, repping Impact Tank over here. We helped the Ministry of ICT as sort of the prime consultant for developing the country's first ever broad-scale national digital strategy. So we really got in head first-hand experience on really what are the issues on the ground, what are the barriers to implementation. And I think the first and obvious one, we're a big country, but we don't have lots of people. You have lots of people that are spread out in throughout a country that's a lot of it is inaccessible. The infrastructure isn't great. So I think connecting everyone in Namibia to the internet is probably one of our biggest challenges.
Of course,
because it's commercially just not always viable to set up stations and base stations and satellite receivers in these faraway remote places. And then the other thing, it's more nuanced and it's not something you think of first, but it's just kind of getting people to accept change. So, Sibo, if I can ask you, how long did it take your mother to start using WhatsApp?
It took a minute.
It took a while.
And now that she's abusing it.
How long did it take your grandmother?
Oh, no, she doesn't have it. At all.
Exactly.
At all.
Yeah. So the thing is, getting people to kind of embrace these new technologies and trust them, I think that's definitely in Namibia still something we see as a barrier to kind of the uptake of this, and just utilizing it for all it's worth. And you mentioned your mom might be now abusing it.
Yes.
So that's the thing, is also we need to make sure that we want to connect everyone to the internet.
Yeah.
But are they safe? Is it the best thing?
True.
I mean, I think the jury's out whether Facebook has been a net plus or a net negative for especially teenagers' mental health. So we need to make sure that safety is also prioritized in this equation.
So I understand that you recently attended the conference. It's about electric IDs, well, not electric, but electronic IDs, which is the EIDs in Ethiopia. Can you just tell us a little bit about what digital IDs actually are and how they contribute to economic inclusion, especially for us here in Namibia?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was so privileged to attend a conference on digital IDs in Addis Ababa earlier this year. First time in Ethiopia, amazing experience. And I think I went in not knowing much about digital IDs. And it was a really good way to understand just what it is. And when I went in, I thought it's just a digital copy of an ID. Like, where's the value in that?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds quite simple. But it's actually a lot more complex and a lot more innovative than that.
Okay.
And let me kind of give you an example. Imagine that you have a wallet full of different cards. You have your ID in there, your healthcare card, maybe a social grant voucher. But what if you lose this, or what if something happens to it, or in a fire everything goes away? Or you have to go to the police station to get a certification for the 43rd time on like a copy of your ID.
Those long queues again. Yeah.
This is irritations for a lot of us that are sort of privileged enough to live in cities and of a higher income bracket. But it's a real massive issue for any sort of person that has to travel a lot and doesn't have access to a lot of ways to make this go easier. And basically, a digital ID is like a wallet, but it's all integrated and it's all online and it's all verified. So the tech behind it is very complex, but at its most basic level, what it allows you is it gives you this digital token, which allows people to kind of verify their identification without having to carry something around. Yeah. So it puts the burden back on the authorities and not the person,
which is much simpler.
Exactly, but it doesn't stop there, because what that actually then enables you to do is, firstly, that once you have that ID, it's much easier to open bank accounts, because that is that's all you really need. So, for example, in India, it resulted in a massive uptake of bank accounts, which was great for financial inclusion.
Yeah.
And then something like social transfers, or if the government owes you money, you can get that through this digital ID, and it acts as a sort of a e-wallet in some ways. So that is again an incredible tool. And the government then also saves a lot of money because they don't have a lot of duplicates that they have to deal with, paperless, costs. It's just a lot more streamlined. And the good thing is this isn't just a first world resolution. There's countries in Africa and a lot of good examples from Asia and Southeast Asia that have really done pioneering work on this. And I think the benefits for Namibia is really, really incredible.
So from what you saw there at the conference and what you heard about it, do you think it will be like an easy adaptation for us as Namibians? We do have the tech for it, right?
Yeah, I mean any sort of national scale rollout of a new ID system will have its challenges.
Okay.
But having been in Ethiopia, they have so many more people than we do.
Of course.
When I told them that we have 3 million people, they're like, you guys can sleep easy.
That's just my little family.
Exactly. So I think we a lot of the challenges in this program or in this process, Namibia is actually better off.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's definitely a very realizable goal.
Okay. Now, would you think that there are any particular skills or areas of knowledge that are specifically important for the next generation of tech innovators that they can adopt?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's, there's an interesting debate. Let me start with the first skill I think that's really going to change things, and it's not going to blow your minds, but it's just really understanding the implications of artificial intelligence and knowing how to use artificial intelligence tools. I think it's just going to really put you ahead of the curve in understanding just the implications of how it can be used. I think we've barely scratched the surface on how tools like ChatGPT can actually be used beyond the cool thing of writing a poem.
Oh, write me an email.
Exactly.
The professional email.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And then I think I would say if you're a tech innovator, I would encourage you to look beyond the hard skills and actually focus more on kind of partnerships.
Okay.
Because I think, it's really easy to, not easy, but I think understanding the technology is just one part. If you want to make a real innovation or a real difference, you need to understand how that's going to, apply in the real world and really figure out the stuff that's not easy to find in a book.
You mentioned AI, and a lot of people are so scared of it and the implications of it in terms of surveillance and all of the like. What would you say to someone who's a bit apprehensive about AI moving forward?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very valid concern. I think it's shared by a lot of people, shared by myself as well. I think I'm really, really interested in sort of the ethical and safety implications of AI, and I think it's really something that we should definitely explore a lot more.
Yeah.
However, I think the more you know, the less you become afraid.
True.
Because I think it's often the uncertainty that makes you scared. So I think understanding that we're not at the precipice of Terminator 2 happening here. It's not a sentient intelligence. It's all just data and math. I think it kind of it'll better show you what it can and cannot do. And I think err on the positive side that we've gone through a lot of these technological cycles and we're all still here. So I think the implications on job creation, it's difficult to say if there'll be a net creation of jobs or loss of jobs, but I think we shouldn't expect it to be, something that we can't manage in the long term.
True. And as we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners about just the potential of technology for development and specifically economic inclusion?
Yeah, there really is. And I think one of the things that is often overlooked is a lot of the data that informs these technological evolutions. They're generated in the global north. They're generated in the US or the EU. So if Africa and Namibia is going to be a better player, we need to be better represented in sort of these processes.
Okay.
And we see a lot of that, in terms of algorithmic bias, the bias of some of these systems, not intentionally or evilly, but just because it's not done in collaboration with a representative sample of people. So that's definitely something that is going to be really important for us to ensure an equitable digital future. Yeah. And then I think the last thing is just think of the problem you want to solve and then apply technology to it. Okay. I think often we're distracted by flashy new things happening and the latest tools and trying to think, okay, that looks neat. How can I use that in my life? But maybe first think maybe tech is not always the answer. And I say that as someone that really believes that tech can change a lot of things, but it doesn't change everything. So you need to start at the sort of first principles. What are you trying to change? What problem are you trying to solve? And then see what the best solution is, and potentially tech is it.
Well, thank you so much, Niel, for joining us, and thank you for your insight.
It's been a wonderful time. Thank you, Sibo.
Thank you for tuning in into another episode of BalbuTech. Join us next time as we continue to explore the stories, innovations, and trends shaping Africa's tech landscape. Until then, keep innovating, stay tech savvy, and keep impacting lives.